is Okeeba Jubalo. I'm a number of things: poet, fine artist, graphic designer, videographer, publisher, a number of things. But I own a number of different businesses here in Atlanta, creative agencies here in Atlanta. And my role in Atlanta, it kind of moves in different ways. I'm a curator also. I've done a lot of things in this city. And also, I created this web series, NBAF Reimagined. So creating this web series was one of the things that I came up with and saying, okay, let's look at some of the real faces here in Atlanta. So a part of creating this web series was to introduce NBAF's following to some of the amazing artists that we have in this city. Amazing and everything, but unfortunately, if you're not connected to the right person, then you can go unnoticed for decades. In order for Atlanta to really turn into a scene, you know, like a really robust and, you know, thriving scene, what really needs to happen, there are quite a few things that need to happen. One, we need to be honest about the impact that gentrification is having on our black art scene. That's one of the first things we need to do, because art is going to be reflective of who lives in the community. And if we don't live in the community, there's no way that we can be there to represent ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, if we're being pushed out of Atlanta because of the cost of living, and we're being pushed out of Atlanta because of the fact that the galleries can't sustain themselves, or the poetry clubs, or the jazz clubs, or any of these other venues that would serve as staging points for artists to be able to actually thrive in the city, if they can't even keep their doors open, then it's going to be impossible. It's going to be totally impossible for artists to survive here in the city. So that's one of the first things we need to address, is the impact that gentrification is having on the black art scene. We're seeing it now. You can list any art gallery, in Atlanta, black art gallery in Atlanta, and I promise you they're turning into an event space rather than being a full-fledged art gallery, setting up an artist union. And I know there are different organizations throughout the city, or one main organization in the city that's, you know, supposed to be here to cater to artists and everything, like business needs. And what they really don't understand is that an organization that is not tailored towards the specific needs of the black artists is a muted organization. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, my needs as a black artist is going to be totally different in comparison to the needs of a white artist. And if we're not honest about that, then the organization does absolutely no good to even be there. You know what I mean? And that's a big part of what's wrong with Atlanta, is that we focus so much on just a blanket service, where we need this thing to pinpoint and say, how do we create a fertile scene for artists and also black artists? You know what I'm saying? And in speaking about, you know what I'm saying, the professional arena for black artists, we need to narrow down, how do we fix that? You know, and there are a number of creative ways we can do it. Partnering with real estate developers, yeah, that's one way. You know, also, and being able to partner with them, that helps in so many different ways, because if we partner with the city and real estate developers, then we can get, you know, tax breaks for them purchasing a certain amount of artwork every year, because we have all these buildings that are being built all over Atlanta, but who's placing the artwork in there? And even if they're not buying original work, then they can buy prints, you know. But we need like an ongoing economic system that actually helps artists to thrive, and nobody's in charge of that. Nobody's in charge of it. It's like an afterthought. Nobody's really thinking about, oh, artists actually have to survive, thrive all year long. The artists are amazing. And we also need to look at developing workshops to help artists level up in our presentations, level up in our business approaches. You know what I'm saying? We need these different things in place so that it's so that it can move. Because I know a lot of folks will say, okay, well, in order for the work to be on this certain level, a high museum, then or in order for the artist to even make it into the high, like a Radcliffe, Bailey, or Fahamu, or any other name that you pull out, it needs to be on a certain level. Well, it's basically impossible to get the work on that level if you don't have that level of support, because this work isn't being created for free. You know what I mean? So it's just like you have one of these situations where, whether it's even a Thornton Dow, rest in peace, you know what I'm saying? But if you're not willing to invest in the artist on that level, it's crazy to think that the artist can just pull the money out of thin air in order to create work on a certain level to even end up in the High Museum or any of these other museums. If you want world-class artwork, you need world-class support. It's not just going to magically happen. If you want world-class artwork, you need world-class support. And as soon as Atlanta becomes honest in that space, you'll see some amazing work being created on a much higher level.